So let's start with Saba Saba, which has evolved from commemorating Kenya's pro-democracy movement in 1990 to, I think, a much wider platform, isn't it, for civic activism? What's the atmosphere like across Kenya this morning, and what are people expecting from today generally?
Wow, thank you so much, Peter Ndoro. And of course, Kenyans have been urged by, civil society organizations to take part in the Saba Saba, a march that is scheduled today in honor of the victims of the alleged killings and enforced disappearance and demand accountability through peaceful and lawful and according to the Social Justice Center Working Group, the mobilization is meant to remember those who have lost their lives or gone missing while pushing for independent investigation into the cases. And the group, while speaking to journalists, said many families across the country are still searching for their relatives who were allegedly abducted and never returned home, while others are mourning loved ones who are said to have been killed during police operation or incidents that have raised a concern over the use of force. And Peter Ndoro, today we just woke up to a major road leading to the capital, Nairobi, being blocked by the Kenya police. And these roads are Thika Road, Mombasa Road, Outer Ring Road, and Ngong Road. These are now the major roads that leads to the city. And according to the police, this is just a part of a caution to make sure that they restrict people who are now entering the city. We've seen these work during the Gen Z anniversary that happened 2 weeks ago, and now we are seeing the disruption of activities in the major part of the country. And now the group that is now organizing this Sabasaba, they have now emphasized that the families of those who lost their loved ones or their loved ones disappeared, they deserve truth, justice, proper investigation carried under the law.
Okay, I mean, it's going to be fascinating to see how this one plays out. The authorities obviously trying to downplay it, saying that it's a normal working day, I guess. But still in Kenya, one of the biggest business stories, perhaps, is Vodacom taking a majority control in Safaricom. Beyond corporate headlines, what could this mean for the millions of East Africans who rely on Safaricom and M-Pesa every day?
Yes, Vodacom Group Limited just announced that they have completed its acquisition of an additional 20% of Safaricom, and now this means it is now giving it control of the Kenyan company. The deal has gone ahead following the Court of Appeal of Kenya's 26th June 2026 stay of a conservatory order and fulfillment of all condition precedent. Vodacom said that its 55% stake allows for consolidation into one of Africa's foremost telecommunications, financial services, and technology business. And now this transaction valued at around 2.1 billion US dollar, about 35 billion rands, was first announced in December 2025. And now Vodacom acquires a 15% stake from government of Kenya and an effective further 5% from Vodafone Group PLC. Now the Kenya government will retain a 20% stake in Safaricom, which is listed on Nairobi's security exchange. And the group, Peter Ndoro, according to the report by the what we call the we call it the earning before interest taxes depression and harmonization, which now rates it at around 63 billion runs at the financial year 2026, while Safaricom reported around 29 billion. And now, of course, this is a landmark for the Vodafone, for Safaricom, and for communities they serve in East Africa. This is according to Shamil Josuba, who is now the Vodafone group CEO. And I also added that the outstanding track record differentiated the growth outlook perfectly complement its vision 2030 ambition, which looks to scale into digital and financial services. Remember, Peter Ndoro, Safaricom owns M-Pesa platform, the continent's leading mobile money and financial service platform. And we just saw M-Pesa now enter into the Ethiopian market, adding it to its customer base by about 14 million users.
So, as we take a look at the border between Rwanda and the eastern DRC, that's reopened after weeks of Ebola related restrictions. How important is this reopening for communities and trade? And are health authorities confident that they can actually contain the outbreak whilst keeping the borders open?
Yes, Peter, this is now a reprieve to the traders and the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. After now reopening at the border on Thursday, after it was being closed in May of the ongoing Ebola outbreak, bringing the much needed relief to the residents of Goma, the capital of eastern Congo. And now the reopening announced in a press release on Thursday by the Rwanda backed M23 rebels who seized Goma early last year. And remember, the city's airport has been closed since the takeover, now leaving Goma largely dependent economically on cross-border traffic between the two countries. And one of the traders who spoke to the journalist said that, of course, they are happy to see the border reopened, and because their lives are really or 100% dependent on it. Now, so far, the outbreak of the Ebola has caused more than 1,400 confirmed cases and more than 4,000 deaths. And according to the World Health Organization, they advised against closing the border, saying it only hamper the Ebola response with Goma's airport shut. And now people wanting to travel internationally, they have to go to Rwanda capital, Kigali, which offered the safest access to into the international airport. And now traveling further into Congo meant crossing into a front line of a conflict that has raged for decades. Now opening the border, now it now eases the movement of goods, people between the two countries. And Peter Ndoro, we are expecting the trial for the Ebola treatment to begin on Thursday, and the researchers hope it could work as a treatment for Ebola, which now caused by the Bundibugyo virus, and the virus has no vaccine and no approved treatment, and it spreads undetected for weeks as health authorities tested for more than a common Zaire virus.
In Somalia, fresh concerns after the United States indicated that it could block UN funding linked to the African Union's stabilization mission. I guess this will have a pretty significant impact on security operations.
Yes, Peter Ndoro, this is the movie could really spell the end of the African human peace building force in Somalia, and US announcing that they will now be asking the United Nations from supporting the mission. And this is in a diplomatic note to the African Union seen by the Reuters, and the US has vowed to block any spending of the UN funds on the AU, on the Africa Union support and stabilization mission in Somalia. And now the mission's last year budget was about 190 million US dollar, but the financing has become increasingly difficult, leading to a huge funding shortfall. Now the US, which is now one of the largest supporter of the UN support office in Somalia, whose total budget is projected to top 500 million US dollar this year. Now, the African Union force comprises troops from Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia, and others, and has been in Somalia to prop up the beleaguered federal government since 2009, and now they heavily rely on the UN support to pay logistics, medical services, and transportation of troops. And now the African Union will now have to look for alternatives to ensure that, of course, they are filling the gap. But if that is not possible, this is going to be a very difficult situation for a country that has really been affected by the jihadist group Al-Shabaab.
An unusual move by Malawi's president, Peter Wamtarika, pardoning 134 prisoners to mark the country's Independence Day. And as I said, clemency, not a usual thing in Malawi. What do you think the government is trying to send a message on here?
Yes, Peter Mutharika, pardoning around 130 inmates. Of course, this is just to show that, of course, the president has to have mercy, on people that have been in prison, and of course. This has been a tradition for the Malawi during their public holidays, and according to the Minister of Homeland Security, said the beneficiaries were carefully selected in accordance to established guideline by governing presidential pardon, and now the pardon include prisoners who have served at least their half of their sentences, all elderly inmates, women in prison with infants, and prisoners are suffering from chronic diseases. And the ministry added that the beneficiaries had also demonstrated good behavior and meaningful reform while serving their sentences. And describing the presidential pardon as an act of mercy, the ministry said the clemency had been extended to deserving inmates as Malawi marked this year's Independence Day celebration. And now, traditionally, the president formed part of the major national commemoration in Malawi, including Independence Day, Christmas, offering selected inmates an opportunity to reintegrate into the society. And remember, Peter Ndoro, human rights organizations have frequently called for the clemency measures, particularly as part of the broader efforts to ease prison overcrowding and and address circumstances of vulnerable inmates who pose little risk to the society.
Right, and that's where we're going to have to leave it. My dear brother, always great talking to you. We'll catch up with you same time next week. Asante sana, ndungu yangu.
Karibu sana, Peter Ndoro.
All right, that's Denis Beru catching us up with what's been happening in East Africa. It's 6:30 Central African time, and it's time for your news headlines. Good morning, Jualane Tulo Ngwepe.